So here we are. We are starting now on the item 3. We have started last Saturday, but it's better to rewind a little bit from the beginning so we can proceed. Item 3. Of course, all this is no more than theory that is more rational than any other, but it is a theory that contradicts neither reason nor science. I think we spoke about that last week, but nevertheless, it's always positive to remind us that we should analyze everything in this study. Don't take anything I say as granted. Use your reason. Try to compare with what you know, with what other people say, and mainly with what is written in Kardec's book. Our goal is not to tell what is true, what is right, what is wrong, but to give us food for thought. And if we may, in the future, not agree entirely with what we are saying here or what we initially understood, that's very positive, because that means that we are opening our minds for new possibilities, for new understandings. And that's what we all should be aiming for any study. Furthermore, it is corroborated by facts and it is sanctioned by both logic and experience. Logic is something that is very particular. What is logic to me may not be logic to you. But when he is speaking about logic, he's speaking about scientific logic. 1 + 1 is equal to. That no one can argue. So that's the logic he's talking about. An experience. Everything we do regarding mediumship cannot be just studying, cannot be just what is in the book. It is also part of the experience. It is also part of the practice. So everything that he brought to us is part logic and experience / practice. We have found these facts in the phenomena of spirit's manifestation, which thus have provided us with patent proof of the existence and survival of the soul. I would say that if we are here, it's because we believe there's something more than just our physical body. And Kardec is calling this soul when we are incarnated, and spirit when we are discarnated. So if we believe that we don't finish when our body perish, this that has been left can still interact. And how will we interact if we have difficulty to see, to hear, to understand? Well, we call that phenomena. There's a lot of people that call phenomena, they call poltergeist, they call many things. But everything is natural, and everything is a consequence of the spirits that we are. So through Kardec experiences, he was making tests, he was evaluating, he was proving what he thought was right. And after he came to a consensus with the spirits, then he started to prepare the book. Nonetheless, there are many people whose belief does not go beyond this point, right? And I think I may well say that many spiritists stop there. Many spiritists like to read a spirit book, like to watch a lecture, for example, but that's it. We have a hand raised already. Hi, Christine. How are you doing? You all right?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I'm all right. I'd just like to say that yesterday I watched a movie, or actually it was a documentary, and it was about people who had near-death experiences. And one of those people was actually a doctor. and she was a surgeon, and she didn't believe in anything. She just believed in what she knew, what she saw in front of her. She watched people pass away, and she never really thought about what happened when people passed away, if they went anywhere. But in actual fact, she had an experience where she went on a holiday and she passed away, and she was revived. And it was in that time when she passed away that she had some experiences which Kardec talks about. And she's a firm believer now in all that Kardec talks about. And she's helping others who have had similar experiences. So I think it's interesting that, because part of the research they were talking about in this documentary didn't start till about 1990, whereas Kardec was 1855, was it? Or the 1850s, around about then. So it's interesting. It's interesting.
Many of us, Christine, we only believe in something we can touch and something more tangible, even if we cannot touch, but something that is more tangible. And there's a difference between believe and to know. I used to say quite often that I do not believe in spirits. I do not believe in mediumship, because I know it's part of my life. It's part of what I can deal with. I can talk to them. I can see the results of their existence with us. I can see the results of what they tell us to do. So there's a difference between believe and to know. And then I think I'm already moved from believe to know. But there's a lot of people that even when they are exposed to undeniable facts, they will not believe. That's why I said on the first encounter we had here that I'm not here to convince anyone, because we can only convince people that want to be convinced. Otherwise, we are just wasting time and energy. And after a lot of experiences we all can have, if you don't want to believe, so be it. That's what you are. So, but that's why I said we are not here to convince anyone. But through reasoning and through experience and logic, as Kardec said, we may change our point of view. And that's already a positive thing. Hi, Maria. You want to talk?
Yeah. Yes, yeah. I just want to add to what Christine said, that there is a video on YouTube. It's an interview with a German medical doctor. And he wasn't a religious person. He didn't believe in anything, not that he denied it. He couldn't find a reason to believe in survival and so on. But then he found himself in a very peculiar situation, and he applied scientific method. And he ended up with the conclusion of survival, existence. Just to tell in a couple of words, his daughter's schoolmate, she died, and he didn't know the girl very well, but he was so affected by that he couldn't explain why. So in the end, he started to study, and he ended up with the conclusion that the girl survived. They had a previous incarnation where she was his daughter, and she died in a similar circumstance. And it's very interesting because he starts just from logic, observation, and he draws his conclusions. He went after mediums then to explain certain things, just showing that he ended up, even without knowing Kardec, he ended up with the same conclusion that Kardec presents to us, just using logic and scientific methodology. He did some studies. He took a group of people, and then he had some questions for these people. He was very careful in this. It's very, very nice. I'll see if I can find his name, and then if you search on YouTube, you will find his interview. I think it's on a German TV program. He was interviewed, and then he tells everything since the very beginning. Very interesting.
Very nice. And before I pass the mic to Liz, and there is a name that is very worth to search, Ian Stevenson. He did a marvelous research over the years, and he used a scientific method, but still, a lot of people do not believe. Yeah, hi Liz, how are you doing?
Hello guys, good morning, good afternoon. I don't know where you are. Sorry, have a good day. I just wanted to comment on, as we are talking about science and scientists and them then believing in things by their own experiences. I am very sorry, I don't know the name of the person, because this memory just came to me. It was this scientist from United States, that I know for sure, and he was using scientific methods to prove the existence of spirits. So he would go to a laboratory and then he would talk and say for the spirits to do something in this chamber that would show that they would be there. And he ended up, he worked with a medium, a spiritualist medium, and he ended up with 2 lights in these chambers that would come on into the time, some certain times. And he had all this research, and he said, oh, before anybody accuses us to, kind of manipulate the tools and everything and do a wrong reading on this, they spoke to spirits to say, like, we are not going to be here. None of us are going to be here in such and such a time. I'm going to turn the equipment in such a time. And if you want to give your evidence of your presence here, please do so in this time. So then, even with all these evidences that he gathered of this, people would rather believe that his consciousness and his thought affected the equipment from where he was at home, instead of just seeing what was in front of them there. As you said, Guilherme, people are just going to believe in what they want to believe. In Kardec's time, Kardec faced this as well. They just didn't want to see what was there in front of them, and yet they'd rather make other explanations that, to be honest with you, have no sense at all, makes no sense at all, just to justify their beliefs that nothing really exists, we are all this body, and etc. and etc. So I just wanted to share this with you guys.
Lovely, very nice. Hi, Ebony, good morning.
Good morning. I also wanted to add that one of my most surprising experiences with mediumship is that people who have this deep-rooted disbelief in spirits, the existence of spirits, when they do disconnect, that disbelief persists for some of them. And it is one of the reasons why it is so difficult to assist them. They deny their very existence, even though at times they're communicating, and it adds to the confusion. At least that has been my experience.
We see that quite often in the mediumship meeting, right? Remember that when we pass away, we remain the same we are, without love, without hate, without belief. So there's no magic wand that promotes changes just because we left our body. That's why so many of them still do not believe. And sometimes when they come to a mediumship meeting, they have a kind of shock. And then they start to see there's something they do not understand first. But yeah, what you said is it's happening, and more often than we thought. So They believed in the existence of souls and consequently in the existence of spirits, but they deny the possibility of communicating with them because they say immaterial beings cannot interact with matter. This doubt results from ignorance of the true nature of the spirits, about which they generally have a wrong idea by considering them to be abstract, vague, and undefined beings, which is not true. And André Luiz, I think he complements quite well this sentence through his books. Even us, spiritists, we believe when we left our physical body behind, we are like a gas balloon that can go with the wind, that can do anything, that we do everything by thought. But even here, Kardec is telling us it's not like that. It's really not like that. Some of us, we still have the concept from old religions, if I may say like that, that we have angels, we go to heaven or to hell. When we die, we wait for salvation, or whatever. That's not what our goal here. But spirits, when we die, we are exactly the same as we are incarnated. Just the matter of our physical body is different because we also have a spiritual body. So the matter is different, but the body remains with everything else, okay? And there's one thing as well. People, they have a hard time to talk to spirits. Many of us here may never had that opportunity to do so, but it's very normal, like we are talking here. You're talking to me, I'm here in the middle of London, somewhere. I don't know where you all are, and you're talking. That's like you talking to a spirit. And you're talking to an incarnated spirit that's not in front of you, or at least you cannot see physically. So it's very normal, it's very common, and there's no reason to be afraid. We must understand all the mechanism of the phenomena, so then we can make that a pleasant opportunity. But we all should not be afraid of it. Hi, Christine, go on.
Hi. I just wanted to just add another bit that was in this documentary. They were talking about consciousness, and it was a scientific-based approach, and they said consciousness is not solely dependent on the brain after we die. The consciousness continues after, and they communicate with the living through mediumship. The medium world is where both this world and spiritual world are united. So I found that interesting because in that statement alone, and from watching the Kardec movie, it seems to be an updated version of what Kardec was saying many years ago. Many years ago.
Yeah, you're right to say that. And as we move along, more and more scientific approval or acceptance will happen. But even if you do have 10 scientists showing them very same facts, very same proofs, part of them will believe, part of them will decide not to choose one side or another, and part of them will deny completely, because we are still humans. And as I said, we don't convince anyone. People believe in what they want to believe based in their experience and their creed sometimes. So that's it. But you see, as we go along in 10 years time, 20 years time, more things will come, and that balance may change. Before going any further, let us consider the spirit in its union with the body. The spirit is the principal being of this union, for the spirit is this thinking being that survives death. The body is no more than an accessory for the spirit, an envelope, a garment that is abandoned after having worn it. He brings that to us in a very natural way. the body is there as long as we need. And when we use all the possibilities, it is gone. But who we are remains. Besides this material envelope, the spirit possesses another, a semi-material envelope, which connects it to the first. So he is the first opportunity he is mentioning in this book, that there is something, right? There is something that allows us to connect our spirit to our physical body. And that remains after the physical body is not there anymore, right? That's what we call perispirit, right? But physical, spiritual bodies are a vast subject worth to study, but we are not going deep in this one here. But we need to understand that our spirit, when it's no longer incarnated, still have a body. He still have his or her independence. What you think remains. What you are remains. At death, the spirit abandons the body, but not the second covering, which we call perispirit. The same material envelope has a human form and comprises for a spirit a fluidic, vaporous body, which, although invisible to us in its normal state, it still possesses some of the properties of matter. So that reminds me of the question from Yasmin, like a week ago, I think. Kardec is telling that, yeah, we still have a body, invisible to us in its normal state, so in some conditions are visible, and it possesses some of the properties of the matter, right? So he brings to us a brief explanation of what a perispirit is. And it's important to everyone that studies mediumship to understand a bit what this spirituality is, because mediumship happens between the perispirit of the discarnated to the perispirit of the incarnated. But we'll see that more in the future. Hi, Yasmin.
Thanks for the explanation. I just have a question. You said we're not going to talk about the perispirit here. I would just like to know, do you have any books to recommend to learn about it?
We do have books, but I'm not sure if they exist in English or in French. But I will get the book, and there are ways to translate, and the translation is quite good sometimes, most of the time. There are some apps that we can translate, and that will give a fair way to understand what is there. So if you send me a private message, I will send to you, or I can put on the group so everybody can see it. I think it's even better. I will copy the book over there, and I will try to translate it to English. Okay?
Okay, understood. Thank you. Thank you, Elsa. Marlène Nobré. I know.
Exists in French, hein, Yasmin.
I will look for it. Thank you, Charles.
L'âme de la matière.
L'âme de la matière. Merci.
Charles, do we have the book Perispirit in French?
From Zimmermann?
Yes.
No, this one is only in Portuguese.
Okay. So I can do a quick translation through an app that's not perfect, but good enough to give a rough understanding of what it is, and I'll send to you all. Okay? Let me make a note here.
Guilherme, I just want to point out something here.
Sure.
Because when Kardec says it's a semi-material, it doesn't mean that it's half matter and half something else. It's just that, it comes from the same nature, which is material. But the perispirit is different from matter that we normally see here in the physical world, because it's not composed by the elements that we see in the periodic table. Otherwise, we would be able to detect it. detect it with naked eyes or our instruments. So because this semi material sometimes, you know, it gives people some reason for doubts.
Mhm. I think Kardec mentioned that is, I don't know the word in English, but matéria quintessenciada.
Quintessentialized
how to say
matter.
that.
Yeah.
Good comment. The spirit, let me see here what. Okay. The spirit is therefore not a simple abstraction, but a confined and circumscribed being, which would only need to become invisible and tangible in order to resemble human creatures. Another topic that's interesting to study in the Spiritism is the materialization of spirits. There are a few books as well that mention about that, and it's very interesting, right? But it is happening less and less nowadays. Why couldn't it be interact with matter? Because of the fluidity of its body. But it isn't among the most rarefied fluids, such as electricity, for example, and those that we consider the most imponderable that we encounter, the most powerful motives forces. And I think one thing that comes to my mind here, I think I mentioned here already, the oxygen, the air. We cannot see, but we depend on it. And the example he's given here, the electricity. Can anyone see electricity in a normal state? Normally not, right? But it's there. And if you do not believe in what I say, please put your finger on the power socket just now, and you see that electricity is there. Because of the fluidity of its body, but isn't it among the most replied? Oops, sorry, I missed it here. Can't imponderable light cause a chemical reaction in ponderable matter? And funny to say that at that time when this book was written, there was no laser beams. What is a laser beam nowadays? It's like interacting with matter. With a laser beam, you can even cut through very hard material nowadays. So at that particular time, he could not even think about that. But now we have a primary example, right? How light can react with matter. We do not yet understand the inner nature of the perispirit, but we might imagine it as being comprised of electrical substance or some other kind of matter, just as subtle. Then why couldn't it have the same properties as electricity when directed by the will? One thought that came to my mind here is that in the Spiritism world, we all believe that the physical body is the reflection of the spiritual body. We all clap our hands when we hear that. But when we say that the spiritual body also have organs, fluids, and everything else, a lot of people don't like it from the Spiritist movement. Why is that? How would it be possible to one be the reflex of the other if on the spiritual world, I don't have a heart, I don't have a kidney, I don't have lungs? How would that be possible? So we have a contradiction here. Yes?
I guess I was just going to say, because we can't see the spiritual being. Is that an answer, do you think?
I'm not following your question, your sentence. Can you say that again?
Where you said the physical body is a reflection of the spiritual body, but some people can't relate to that or understand that. could that be because the spiritual body is something that's generally, or not generally, is unseen? Is
Yeah.
nobody can see it
It
except,
is.
yeah.
It is. God is a contradiction. Like I was about to say, is a contradiction. Because if I believe one is reflect of the two, means that everything I see in one, I have in two. So there's one contradiction that I don't understand why people have that problem, that difficulty. And I don't see the name, but I see a hand raised. If you want to talk, please go on.
No,
Sorry, I didn't lower my hand. Oh, sorry.
no, is it because is that anything to do with the mind? Because like illness and everything you have, I don't know if you understood what you said, but comes from the perispirit into your body first. Is that what you're saying?
That is part of that in what you're saying. Okay? A lot of people in the Spiritism believe everything is a result of the mind. We think it exists. We can create everything by thought, right? But I have a different understanding based on Kardec's and André Louis' teachings, right? If you want to understand what a perispirit is, look to yourself in the mirror. You have eyes, you have eyebrows, you have hair. If you put your hand in your chest, you feel your heart beating. You feel your lung filling with air. You feel pain. You have fluids that we call blood. In the spiritual world, the perispirit has exactly the same characteristics. But when I say that, many people don't accept, because we prefer to believe that as spirits, we don't have to work. We can do everything by thought. We can move from A to B without any effort. Perhaps a very high hierarchy spirit that is not on earth may do it. But the spirit is realm around us on earth is more close to us than we think. And that is written in that sentence here of Kardec. If you want to explode what he said, that is very well explained in André Louis' books and many other books we have back in Brazil. But it's down to people. Again, if you want to believe that you just a gas balloon that can do everything by thought, you may be surprised when you move on. When you arrive on the other side, you may be surprised, right?
Okay, thank you.
Let's move on to the item number 4. The existence of the soul of God and of God. The former deriving from the later, comprising the foundations of the entire edifice of Spiritism. Well, if the spirits exist, it has been created. Has been created by whom? By what? So when we don't believe in spirits, it's kind of we do not believe in God. So let's see what Kardec has to say to us. But before we can set forth any Spiritism argument, we must be sure that whomever we are discussing the matter with also accepts its foundation. One thing that is quite interesting that he's saying here is that why we in different words, of course, why we want to talk about it with people that do not believe, that do not even understand the foundations of what we preach, for example. My understanding, my take is don't lose your energy somewhere you will not gain from it, right? If people really do not understand, do not even bother to understand the basis of what you believe, despite, regardless if they believe or not, I don't think it's a practical exercise. If we receive a negative response to the question, do you believe in God? Do you believe you have a soul? Do you believe that soul survives after death? Or if we receive the simple answer, I don't know, I would like to believe it, but I'm just not sure, which most of the time is the same as a timid denial disguised under a less categorical answer, so that it does not abruptly shock what he or she regards as respectable prejudices. It would be useless to proceed. Do you agree, Kardec? What do you think, Munir? Do you agree what he's saying?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
And
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, you can't just believe from one point onward without believing in the foundation. That's how I see.
Mhm. Yeah. And Charles, how do you see that nowadays?
It's
in France?
absolutely
How-
this. I mean, yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. The people who do not believe they have a soul, they cannot believe that the soul is existing before, that it is reincarnating, that it is dying, that it is surviving after the death, sorry, and that it can communicate. It simply cannot believe in it. So if you don't have the starting basis, you lose your time talking about things that this person will absolutely not believe. We shall absolutely start from the beginning. Commencer par le commencement. Começa pelo começo, né? And otherwise, you just lose your time, and you can make also this person angry. No, we should respect their belief. If the person is saying, I don't know, I would like to believe, but I'm just not sure. Okay, so just leave the time for this person to come back with questions or to ask something, but don't insist with her. It's not, you are losing your time and making this person losing her time. It's just like this.
I totally agree with that. And when Charlie was talking, something came to my mind, right? It came to our institution, one person, that she had a different religion, but she had a totally unbalanced mediumship, right? She was totally desperate to find help. And in her own normal circle of experience, she could not find the proper help. So she came to a Spiritist center asking for help. We did invite her to participate in some studies to have a basic knowledge of what was going on. And when I say some study, I'm not talking about making a 10 years university to learn. That's not necessary. It was just to have some thoughts in that mind to understand better what was happening physically to her body, because mediumship is physical. And the best way to bring her to balance was to having her in the mediumship meeting after a period of time. She stayed with us in the mediumship meeting for years, several years. I would say maybe 6, 7 years with us, seeing a lot of things through herself and through the other mediums. But one day she decides to stop everything. Then I said, well, fair enough, everybody has the right to start and to stop anytime they want. But as curious that I am, I asked her, why? I do not believe anything that's happening. After 7 years, I do not believe anything that's happening. I'm going back to my church, and in that church, I will find God. My answer was beautiful. God is everywhere. Find him where you feel better. That was it. But imagine yourselves being a medium, extensive medium, ostensive medium, for 7 years, writing, listening, seeing, talking in the mediumship meeting, seeing all the phenomena around you for 7 years. And then you decide not to believe. So at that moment, I learned that we do not convince anyone. We do not change anyone unless if the person wants to be changed or want to be touched. That's it. So that was a very prime example that came to my mind that, what can I say, you know? Some of you here, guys, I know you are in the mediumship meeting with us, right? And then sometimes I used to say, are we all crazy in that meeting or not? Do you believe in what's going on or not? Because everybody has the right to make their own mind. But we cannot deny what we feel physically, because mediumship is related to the physical body. But belief is another thing. Right?
Guilherme, if I may.
Sure.
As most people, I mean, we ourselves, we do that sometimes. We want to choose what is convenient for us to solve our problems. We don't want to take everything. And it's very common, okay, I believe, yes, in reincarnation, we could explain a lot of things, but I don't believe in God, or I don't believe in this, or I believe in spirit, but I don't believe in reincarnation. Because people want to find a solution that suits them. And they don't want to take into consideration all the rest. But it's not like that. I mean, it doesn't make sense if you don't take the whole lot. If you just pick up here and there, it'll be just part of your confusion. If we want an explanation given by the spirits, we have to take everything. Then it makes sense. Otherwise, as I said, you want a building, but you don't want foundation. Is it going to float or what?
And so something just came to my mind, Munir, and you are part of the meeting, so you know. Remember that in one of the recent meetings, we had one spirit surprised with the mechanism of mediumship helping someone he could not help himself. So yes, on the other side, not everyone knows about mediumship or spiritism or anything else, but this spirit in particular, he was surprised the way someone he was trying to help for God knows how long, the person was helped with something that we know that was through mediumship that he never thought, he could not even understand. But in the end, the most important was the charity. Everything we do, or everything we should do with mediumship, is charity, helping others. And when we are helping others, we are helping ourselves. And he understood that. And he, as far as I remember, he was pleased to understand better, to help others from now on. Hi, Rafael.
Hello. I just want to make a comment here. It's deviating a bit from mediumship, but Kardec is giving us not just food for thought when you're talking to somebody about faith, religion, mediumship, but I think it's a very important lesson that he's giving us that is super contemporary, super important nowadays, with everything that we have in our lives is polarizing. And we have a lot of examples at the moment that things are very polarizing. People have very strong opinions about things. And what Kardec is telling us here is, it sometimes, or not sometimes, usually doesn't, it's not worth to get into discussions and conversations to try to convince, to try to change the way people think, if they are not open to it. And in the majority of the cases, people are not open to it. So I think this specific item goes beyond spiritism, mediumship, and it's more of like people sometimes, it's only worth to have a discussion with people. They are open to a discussion, they want to understand, they want to broaden their knowledge, their horizons, their arguments. But we don't, for instance, I don't think we have that in our minds all the time. Sometimes we see an opportunity to discuss with somebody because they have a different opinion, and we just jump into it and just for the sake of it. And what Kardec is saying is, look, people have different thoughts, beliefs. The beliefs of the basics, if the beliefs of the basics are different, then it's not a job to try to convince them anything else. So I think this is also a good lesson, not just if you go out of mediumship, but very important nowadays, slightly polarizing opinions.
I totally agree with you, Rafael. And I think it's very important what you said, because we remain human beings, incarnated or not, and we all have much alike, same characteristics. And one thing came to my mind when Rafael was saying about this is not mediumship. We relate it only to mediumship, right? Kardec wrote the Medium's Book, not only to the Spiritists. Kardec wrote the Medium's Book to help everyone encountering the mediumship phenomena, the Spiritist phenomena, to be helped. So when someone come to me or to the institution that I was connected back in Brazil, I never asked, are you a Spiritist? To be part of the Medium's Book study, you need to be a Spiritist. Not at all. We brought that knowledge from Kardec to anyone, medium or not, Spiritist or not, because mediums are everywhere. Mediums or mediumship is not a patent from the Spiritism, not at all. We have to keep our mind open. The mediumship is everywhere, with everyone. And it's not like a patent from the Spiritism that to go to a medium's book study, you have to be on the Spiritism for 10 years, and then you go to the Medium's Book for another 10 years. There is nothing like that. That was not the aim of Kardec. Hi, Liz, go on.
I would like to add that not only regarding mediumship, but all the books and all the knowledge that Kardec could write down and, understand and then pass through others, they are very universal. And it is really amazing how, for example, let's take the Spirit's Book. For me, I think the Spirit's Book is such a book, and it just talks about absolutely everything that I can think of that regards life, really, and all the aspects. And, I sometimes get amazed about the capacity. Obviously, Kardec had much help and support, especially from the spiritual world, but he had the courage to do the work that he had to do. And his methodology was like thorough. He just thought about so much. And it really amazes me how universal all this knowledge is, and his methodology of discussing things in a magazine first, then comprising it all in those books. Like you can take a lot. Lately, I have read the Heaven and Hell, and that explains so much as well about our perspectives of what is good and what is not good. And do we really need this duality in our lives at all? And it is so impressive. I just would like to open this parenthesis there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're totally right to say that, Liz. And by the way, Spiritism It's the doctrine of the spirits. It's not from any human being incarnated. Was made from the spirits. Teachings from the spirits. Sometimes we forget that. So many people think that is other things, but this doctrine, the Spiritism doctrine, is made from the spirits, belongs to them. We are just trying to learn with them. And spirits are everywhere. Regardless of your creed, what you believe, spirits are there. So she was very right to say that everything, not only this book, but everything can be applicable to everyone. So
may I
let's
just
move on.
add one thing? Is Kardec is writing the medium books not only for spiritists but for everyone. This is what you just said, Guilherme. And this is why in this first chapter he is recalling all these bases of spiritism. When we are spiritists, it doesn't bring us so much. It's just a kind of a recap. But the person who takes only the medium book as a first spiritist book, for this person, this chapter 1 is absolutely fundamental.
Yeah, that will give some guidance, isn't it? At least to better understand. That's very true. Yeah. Liz, did you raise your hand or was there, and I haven't noticed?
Sorry, I didn't lower it. Sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry. I didn't notice myself. So it would be like trying to demonstrate the properties of a light to a blind person who does not believe in the existence of light. For spirit manifestations are, in fact, only effects of the property of the soul. Thus, if we do not want to waste our time with our conversation partner, we will need to pursue other courses of idea. And yeah, what time is it? Let me see here. Kardec and many of his disciples after him, if we can say like that, they have experimented the phenomena. They did exercises around mediumship, not only in France, in UK, in US, later in Brazil and any other country. And as we encounter a lot of people that do not believe in what we believe, imagining those names, Kardec, Crookes, Lombroso, so many others, they encounter many people of science, mainly, that could not agree, could not believe, and try to prove they were wrong. They used to have meetings, closed doors, with everything they could have at that time to prove that the phenomena was real. When we're talking about people with scientific backgrounds, they had doctors, scientists, military people. They had people that, in theory, no one could come and say, no, this person is not honest. And on the end of the meeting, some of them still did not believe, tried to justify what they saw with their own eyes as a scam, as a trick, whatever. We, nowadays, we don't see much of it because we are not bothering much, really, to prove anything to anyone anymore. That's my take. But from time to time, part of people in Spiritism trying to do some research and trying to do some experiments, and that come again. So humans remain humans, regardless they were 200 years ago and we are now. We have the same characteristics. So my suggestion to us that are in this study is to, go on, Daniel. I saw your hand.
Just a tiny question. How do we perceive critical thinking while studying? Because not that I want to. So is more a question. How I see on this study that we are thinking and relating to the stuff that we lived and that kind of stuff. At least this is what I'm trying to do. But how should we look at a book and look other kind of content without, and how do we apply critical thinking while we're studying, while we are learning, while we are seeing new stuff or even old stuff?
Daniel, thank you a lot for your question. Why I'm saying that, thank you a lot for your question, because that's what I'm trying here. We are trying here. We want you all to exercise that critical thinking. One of the first things I said, we are not here trying to convince you, and we may not be right. But I want you to think, to study, to exercise your own possibilities, to analyze facts. If we all here analyze facts, some may not have access to all of what we can, but on the end of the day, you come to your own conclusions. And that's what I want. And especially in the beginning, I don't want to tell you guys, this is not this, this is right, this is wrong.